What's up, football fans? Coach Kevin Smith with you for a Tuesday episode of the Call Sheet Daily podcast. I'm your host and pleased to be with you on a beautiful spring day here in southern New Jersey. Hope it's nice wherever you are. Hope you had a chance to catch our last couple of episodes last Friday and yesterday, Monday. We had a great guest, Coach Sal Marquez, longtime head football coach at Delsea Regional High School, 12-time sectional and state champion. And Sal was awesome, eloquent in discussing on Friday how to build toughness in a football program. And on Monday, talking about his option-based wing tee offense. If you haven't had an opportunity, man, go back and check those shows out. That was really great to sit with my good friend Paul Callahan and Coach Marquez and talk about those issues. Today, man, moving on to sort of a different subject. So before I introduce the subject, let me ask you this question, okay? What do Wilt Chamberlain and Mel Blount have in common? What do Wilt Chamberlain and Mel Blount have in common? It's quite possible some of you are asking yourself the question, who's Mel Blount? And if you're asking who Wilt Chamberlain is, well, damn it, you start paying attention more. Come on. Wilt Chamberlain, groundbreaking NBA basketball player, starred for the Philadelphia Warriors, Philadelphia 76ers, Los Angeles Lakers from the 1950s into the early 1970s. Wilt Chamberlain was 7'1" and could jump out of the building, and played in an era where the NBA didn't have players like that, didn't have phenomenal athletes. It was largely a perimeter game based on dribbling and passing and shooting. And Wilt Chamberlain was a big man who you could just toss him the ball down low and he was unstoppable. Wilt Chamberlain's the only NBA basketball player to ever score 100 points in a game. And Mel Blount, while not on Wilt Chamberlain's level in terms of his sheer dominance of the game of football, was in his own right an unbelievable player. Star cornerback for the Pittsburgh Steelers on their 4 Super Bowl winning teams from the 1970s. Big corner. Mel Blount was 6'3" and about 205 pounds, long and physical. And Mel Blount's sort of trademark move was his ability to jam receivers at the line of scrimmage and to sort of manhandle them until the ball was thrown, where at that point you had to get your hands off. And Mel Blount, again, man, was one of the cornerstones of that Pittsburgh Steelers defense, most renowned for its front, the steel curtain. But they were great on the back end too, and Mel Blount rode his success in Pittsburgh into the Hall of Fame. And I asked you the question of what do Wilt Chamberlain and Mel Blount have in common? Because the answer is either in part or in Wilt Chamberlain's case, really solely because of that individual's dominance, their respective leagues changed the rules to limit the effectiveness that they were having. In Wilt Chamberlain's case, the NBA widened the lane. The lane was more narrow back then. It was only about the width of the backboard. And allowing Chamberlain to post up at the edge of the lane meant that his teammates could just lob him in the ball and he would catch it and turn around and just lay it in. So they widened the lane to push him further away from the basket so that he wouldn't be so dominant. They changed the nature of a free throw as well. Free throws at that time didn't have to be stationary. So what Wilt Chamberlain would do is he would take a couple steps backwards and then take a dribble or two and launch himself from the free throw line, where he was so long that before he landed, he practically had a layup. He would take a leaping free throw and just lay the ball into the basket. And they changed the free throw rule to make it a stationary act, and you can't cross the foul line until the ball hits the rim. They also took away offensive goaltending. his teammates would shoot the ball and Wilt Chamberlain would just leap up and grab it out of midair as it descended towards the basket and drop it in. That got banned. I mean, significant rule changes in the NBA because of Wilt Chamberlain and because of Mel Blount and how physical he was and his ability to disrupt the routes of wide receivers. They changed the rule so that defensive backs could only contact a receiver within the first 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. I mean, the rule used to be you can jam the receiver until the ball's in the air, which in some instances would allow you to press that receiver for 10, 12 yards down the field. And the Mel Blount rule went into effect in 1978 and altered that so that, again, you can only have your hands on the receiver for the first 5 yards. And I bring this up because there's an interesting proposal put forward by the Green Bay Packers that is now going to be voted on at the league meetings to ban the so-called Tush Push, the power sneak that the Philadelphia Eagles have perfected and in part rode to a Super Bowl championship this past season. In 2024, the Eagles, in running the Tush Push, which I'm sure you're familiar with what I'm talking about, but if you're not, quarterback sneak where players are aligned behind the quarterback. And once Jalen Hurts, specifically in Philly, begins the process of pushing forward after he's accepted the snap, a couple of running backs, a tight end, whomever it might be, come up from behind him and shove him forward. And obviously the Eagles use it in short yardage, and they've been unbelievably effective in doing so. In 2024, they ran the so-called Tush Push play 48 times and converted either a first down or a touchdown on 39 of those plays. But on the 9 plays that they didn't convert, they ran the Tush Push again on the next play and they converted it 8 times. So for practical purposes, the Eagles ran the Tush Push 48 times and were successful at getting a first down or a touchdown on 47 of them. Almost unstoppable. The one play where they didn't, or the one time where they didn't, was early in the season, week 1, when Cam Jurgens, the new center, had taken over for the retired Jason Kelce. And once Jurgens kind of got the hang of it, they didn't get stopped on it for the rest of the season. And Philly is the signature Tush Push team, but they're not the only team that does it well. Since 2022, as a matter of fact, they've got the 3rd highest conversion rate on the so-called Tush Push play at 91.3%. The Detroit Lions are at 100%. Now, Detroit's only used it 7 times. They use it infrequently. They've only used it 7 times. But they have a success rate of 100%, 7 for 7. And the Dallas Cowboys are 23 out of 25. That's a 92% success rate. Philly's at 91.3. The 49ers are at 90.9. Teams that practice it and do it well or do it a lot have mastered it. They do it exceptionally well. Again, success rates of over 90%. The league average since 2022 on Tush Push type plays where you have other players assisting the quarterback, essentially shoving him forward. The league average is an 84.2% success rate. And so Green Bay has called for the play to be banned. And what the Packers have argued, and they're not alone, there are other detractors. What they've argued is there's really 3 major arguments in play. 1, it's not a safe play. You can get hurt. It increases injury rates. And the NFL has not produced any data that shows that this argument's legit. There's no data out there that shows empirical evidence showing the Tush Push is a dangerous play or more dangerous than any other NFL play. But the practicality of having 20 or so bodies all piled up in a confined space suggests that, yeah, there's danger there. They've also argued that it's not a football play, That shoving a runner from behind, which, by the way, that was not legal in the NFL until 2005. It was illegal to aid the runner from behind until 2005. So the precedent does exist for that element of the play, the shoving from behind, to be illegal. In 2005, the NFL legalized it by saying it's too hard for us to tell whether a runner is being assisted in a manner that allows him to gain an advantage. But if you want to argue that the tush push should be banned, that's not that hard to tell. You can see exactly what's going on. I mean, he's being shoved directly from behind by sometimes as many as 2 players, maybe even 3 players. So that you hear people say, like former Steelers head coach Bill Cowher said, hey, it's not a football play. It's a rugby play. And it's not the way that the game of football was meant to be played. And other people would argue, take it out of the game because it's just not aesthetically pleasing. The game of football has been made beautiful by the violent ballet that are these phenomenal athletes doing incredibly athletic things out in space at the risk of physical contact, at the risk of being collided into violently. And that's what we love about the game, not these scrums. If you want the scrum, go watch rugby. The NFL, what do we want in the NFL, man? We want the deep ball. We want the beauty and the excitement that is a great punt return. We want the interception. We don't want the rugby scrum. So I think the interesting question the league now has to entertain is there precedent for banning this? If you're going to ban it, essentially you would have to make the argument that taking the tush push out makes the game safer or better. And I mentioned that word precedent. We think about it almost like you think about a court case, a Supreme Court case. Does precedent exist for overturning this law? And there are plenty of examples of plays or actions that the league has banned and taken out. I mentioned the Mel Blount rule already. Yeah, you had the forward fumble, right? The so-called holy roller. If you go back to 1978 in a game between the Oakland Raiders and the San Diego Chargers. Final play of the game, Oakland down by 6. They've got the ball in San Diego's 14. Quarterback Ken Stabler flushed out of the pocket. He's rolling out. He's about to be sacked. And he simply rolls the ball forward on the ground, in a manner that kind of looked like a fumble, although it was more so him just kind of throwing the ball forward on the ground, and then tight end Dave Casper kicking it forward again and eventually falling on it in the end zone for what was ruled a touchdown, and the Raiders kick the extra point and win the game. And that rule was that play was taken out, so that now the rule says in the final 2 minutes of a football game, the only person who can recover a forward fumble is the individual who fumbled it. So in that instance, it would have had to have been Ken Stabler, the quarterback. They took the head slap out, the head slap, which is exactly what it sounds like. Particularly, it was linemen, defensive linemen. Defensive linemen used to be able to line up and on the snap of the ball could come out of their stance and take an open palm, an open hand, and slap the offensive lineman in the head. That was removed from the game in 1977 for obvious reasons. 320-pound defensive lineman winding up and slapping offensive linemen in the helmet. Not a good idea. You've had different types of tackles taken out. In 2005, the horse collar tackle, where you grab the ball carrier by the back of the shoulder pads and drag him to the ground, that was removed. The hip drop tackle was taken out last year, although it was never called. They didn't call it one time in the NFL this past season. They used to have a thing they used to allow what was referred to as NFL goaltending. Back in the 1970s, the Kansas City Chiefs had a player named Morris Stroud who was 6'10", and they would station Morris Stroud on long field goal attempts at the goalposts. And on kicks that looked like they were going to barely clear the crossbar, Morris Stroud would jump up and bat them back. Basically like a goaltending. And the NFL removed that. And I don't like that. I don't like that they took that out. Because what's the difference of whether you try to block a kick at the line of scrimmage or you try to block it at the goalpost? For me, it's either way, it's blocking the kick, but the league removed that. But the difference with the tush push is this. This is the removal of a play simply because it's not stoppable. I mean, technically it is, but the numbers again have showed that you get into 3rd and 1, the Eagles are going to make a first down, or you get into 3rd and goal from the 1, the Eagles are going to score. They're over 90% success over the last 3 years, and they're not the only team. The league-wide average is 84.2%. So in essence, what the league would be doing is saying, we're going to take this play out because we don't think we can stop it. And yeah, I don't think that it's aesthetically pleasing, and maybe it's illegal to shove a guy from behind, etc. So what are they going to do? I don't know. In order to ban the play, you got to get 75% of the owners to vote against it. That's 24 out of the 32 teams. I don't think that they'll get that vote. And I don't think that they should ban it. I do think that they need to reconsider whether or not you can actually shove a runner from behind. That used to be illegal. And if that is what makes the tush push different from a regular quarterback sneak, then we should probably look at that. Is that within the spirit of the rules? Shoving a player from behind. I would entertain a conversation about that. But to ban the tush push in and of itself simply because you don't think it looks pretty or because the defense can't stop it seems silly. That's like saying we got to widen the lane because Wilt Chamberlain is too big. I don't think it was right when they did that in the NBA with Wilt Chamberlain. I don't think it would be right to ban the tush push simply because the Eagles and some other teams are really, really good at it. All right, that is our Tuesday show here at the Call Sheet Daily. Join me again tomorrow, Whiteboard Wednesday. My lineup's a little bit in flux today. I'm talking to some really great coaches. Paul Gunther, longtime NFL defensive coordinator, who's now coaching at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas with Dan Mullen. And Phil Longo, who's the head coach at Sam Houston State, former OC at places like Wisconsin, UNC, Ole Miss. But those guys have spring ball right now, and they're both trying to be very gracious and give me some time so they can come on the program. But I'm trying to lock them down, so I don't know exactly what my schedule is just yet for the rest of the week. But I promise you some great shows. So come on back tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. Until then, man, everybody have a great day. This is Kevin Smith for the Call Sheet Daily. Take care.